I'm Connor Old, and welcome back to another episode of Old's Oscar Countdown. And this week we're going to be doing a deep dive on another acting category, this time the Best Supporting Actor category, and why I'm actually pretty confident in my five, and I feel like I'm seeing this category really well. Excited to talk about that later on in the show, but if you're new to the channel, welcome. What I've been doing every single year now on our 10th season, 10 years of predictions, I go week by week and break down a different Oscar category, give my thoughts on a real deep dive of what I think is going to get nominated, as well as some possible contenders, ranked in the likelihood of them getting nominated. We're not necessarily trying to predict the winners just yet. Now, once the nominations come out, we'll continue on and eventually try to predict the winners. But the point of these videos is to do a deep dive and to ultimately help you with your predictions. Hear my thoughts, hear my data, hear some statistics and experience, predicting the Oscars very accurately. Happy to say for the past, 10 seasons, and excited to do this year as well. So if you appreciate the videos, these come out Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Feel free to subscribe to the channel as well, because later on in the series and kind of as we get closer to the Oscars, I will also be doing predictions for other award shows, things like the Golden Globes, reactions. So when that comes off, you may find a Wednesday video or a Thursday video. So we'll eventually kind of get to multiple videos a week. But right now, on a kind of standard basis of one a week, Mondays at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, doing some of those big categories, with this week talking about Best Supporting Actor. And as always, I'd love for you to feel free to comment below. Let me know your thoughts on your predictions. If you don't want to hear my thoughts, you just want to see what my predictions are, feel free to use the timestamps in the description below to jump around in this video, or just to read my predictions there. But if you want to hear my thoughts, my reasonings, stick around for the rest of this video. But without further ado, let's jump into things. Starting off with my first prediction for Best Supporting Actor, I'm going to go with Stellan Skarsgård for Sentimental Value. This is a performance that I had the pleasure of seeing at TIFF this year, so I have seen the movie, and that's also in part why I'm very confident he's going to get a nomination. I'm actually not super confident he's going to get a win. I think it's the most logical sense, in the sense that I think Sentimental Value is a potential top 3, top 4 Best Picture contender. I think it's going to get nominated for Best Director. And if it's that kind of a potential movie, you would think it would pick up at least one major award, this being its most likely. But I also am just so confident in the nomination because it's got all the hallmarks of a kind of classic supporting actor nomination. First off, it's in a really well-celebrated movie. And we've seen the Oscars in recent years. Very simply, if they like a movie, they're going to nominate it in a bunch of categories. This is a movie that is focused on more so its writing and its dialogue and its performances, rather than some of the below-the-line type of other films. So it's not like a Dune or a Top Gun Maverick. It's more like a Banshees of Inisherin in that sense. So if you like the movie, you like the performances, in particular Stellan Skarsgård, who is campaigning here and will be nominated in Best Supporting Actor, but is almost the kind of co-lead of the movie. He is an integral part of this ensemble. There are multiple sequences where it's him and Elle Fanning or him by himself. And I do think that the correlation is clear, where if I think this is a top 3 Best Picture contender, then it also should be appreciated as Stellan Skarsgård and his performance. I think if you like the movie, you like the kind of emotional complexity of his character and what he brings. I think that this movie, not only do we know it was well appreciated out of Cannes and even at TIFF and every kind of festival it's played so far, and great reviews, I also think it's going to resonate with the Academy in particular, because it's about artists, and Stellan Skarsgård here in this film plays a filmmaker, a director. So there's going to be some, appreciation there, because there's going to be a little bit more of that emotional connection when you have artists and members of the Academy voting on who's going to get nominated. I think actors who are voting on the actors that get nominated will appreciate the actors that this movie is essentially about, in that kind of complex relationship. That being said, I do think it does expand beyond that to more of a familial story that people can connect to. But if you do connect with the movie, you connect with the kind of complicated father figure here, played by Stellan Skarsgård, who is brilliant in the movie. And even the role within the movie itself, the way his character is positioned, he is the kind of patriarch of the family without a kind of a motherly figure. So in many instances, you have characters, before we even meet the character, talking about him or talking about how great he is. So it almost adds an extra weight to Skarsgård and his performance, and almost his importance as a character within the movie, not only to his children, but also to some of his other collaborators in the movie. He's in this unique position of being kind of looked highly upon, which I think will only help people's appreciation of Skarsgård, because within the story itself, he's well respected. So you have a really great performance in a movie that I think is going to be really strong. That's also the emotional kind of center of the movie. And then also you have an actor like Stellan Skarsgård, who's never won an Oscar before, and a legendary type of an actor. And usually in these supporting actor categories, we see actors who have never won before, older actors usually win in this category. Maybe they were a leading man when they're younger and now they're doing more supporting roles, and they finally get their due. And I think Stellan Skarsgård is in that kind of a category of a well-respected actor who's worked in Europe as well as in Hollywood, has made a lot of friends and a lot of appreciators over his time. And maybe now this is the time to kind of give him his Oscar, and we can wait for some of the younger actors like a Paul Mescal. So that's kind of his case as well for a potential win. But right now we're just talking about nominations, and really he's got everything. He's got that kind of a narrative of he's never won an Oscar before, he's a legendary great actor. Oh, he's also in a really good movie. Also, he's really good within the movie, and he's the emotional center. Just one thing after another. I feel very confident that Stellan will get a nomination. Then my second pick, I have Sean Penn for One Battle After Another. This is a dark horse potential winner. I think this category is still up in the air, whether it's Sean Penn or Stellan Skarsgård. I think those are the kind of top two potential winners. And there are some kind of pros and cons. The reason why I have him in my number 2 slot here is just because he's not the true lead of his movie, or it doesn't have as much screen time as someone like a Skarsgård in Sentimental Value. It is a more of an ensemble piece like Sentimental Value, but I think the true lead probably of One Battle After Another is either Chase Infinity or Leonardo DiCaprio. But Sean Penn makes a huge impact. And if you want to just keep it very simple, I think One Battle After Another is the potential Best Picture winner, potential Best Director winner. And if that's the case, well, you have a really interesting, unique, standout performance in one of the year's best movies that will naturally get nominated as well. And what I love about Penn and his performance in this movie is that he makes a lot of kind of unique choices and odd choices, taking this kind of very, maybe could have been a potentially simplistic military guy and makes him a little bit more odd and a little bit stranger, a little bit more pathetic, which makes him different than other villains that you've seen. And I think the actors that are nominating this category, let's not forget, it's the acting branch of the Academy that ultimately nominates the actors. The actors will appreciate that Sean Penn made choices and made distinct choices and did something unique with this character. That's a factor that I think they'll appreciate. Of course, it's in a movie that, I think it's going to be very well celebrated. Sean Penn has already won 2 Oscars before, so there is a group of people that will naturally kind of see him, that were in the members of the Academy back in the 2000s. They're still in it here, that have high regard for Penn, so will want to nominate him. As a matter of fact, I keep thinking of someone like Steven Spielberg, who interviewed Paul Thomas Anderson for the film, and he talked about how much he loves Sean Penn and some of the unique choices, and that's been sticking with me. I think a lot of the actors are going to appreciate his oddball nature of his character. They're going to love the movie, and he'll kind of come along with it. That being said, I am a little bit concerned about his potential chances to win. Sean Penn is an actor who's already won twice before, so people may not feel a need to give him another award. He's, I guess, reportedly not the most well-beloved person in Hollywood. He's somewhat controversial sometimes. He can have a bit of a prickly nature, so he may have rubbed people the wrong way in the past. And when we talk about the Oscars and who's going to win, we saw someone like Sylvester Stallone not win in 2015 for Creed for similar type reasons. So that may persist here with Sean Penn. That being said, Penn has won before 2 Oscars, so there still is also a intense amount of appreciation. And that ultimately won't hurt the nomination process, because oftentimes when you're talking about the Oscars winning, you need a broad group of support. But with nominations, we see more kind of critically split movies like Vice or Don't Look Up, or even critically split performances, something like An Honor to Artemis and Blonde, ultimately get nominated, because in the acting categories you just need a small group of supporters that are very passionate about your film. And Sean Penn, I think, will definitely have that, being in one of the year's best movies, being a really kind of unique and interesting villain type character. Villains also do very well in supporting acting categories, so he's got a lot of pros going for him as well. Very confident in that nomination. Then my third prediction, I'm going to go with Paul Mescal for Hamnet, who has been confirmed to be campaigning in the Best Supporting Actor category, which I think is great for him. Not to say he's not going to potentially get nominated in Best Lead Actor, but whenever you have an actor who could be kind of borderline Best Lead Actor but decides to campaign in Best Supporting Actor, it almost gives them more of a chance to get nominated because they're in a lot of the movie. So if, in this case, we have a movie like Hamnet, which we expect to be well-liked, and Paul Mescal, an actor who is in a lot of the movie, there is a kind of a clear correlation there where theoretically, if you like Hamnet, you should also like Paul Mescal in it. And I think that's what's going to happen here. This is a nomination that I'm not necessarily very confident in any possibility of a win, but I am very confident in many ways of it getting nominated, in the sense that he's going to be coming along with his film. Now, he's not the emotional center of the film like Jesse Buckley's character, but he does have some emotional moments. He is, I would describe, more so as the co-lead of the movie. Now, it's not necessarily a guarantee, but in the supporting actor category, it's a little bit easier than in the best lead actor category. I'll give you the example of something like Killers of the Flower Moon, right? That was kind of like a lead, co-lead between Lily Gladstone and Leonardo DiCaprio. Now, Lily Gladstone gets nominated, but Leonardo DiCaprio doesn't because he's in the lead category. But who does get nominated? Robert De Niro in the Best Supporting Actor category. Sometimes the supporting acting category is a little bit less competitive because you have someone like Paul Mescal, who's in a lot of the movie, sometimes competing against someone like a Delroy Lindo in Sinners, who is not always at the center of the story, at the center of the movie. So we can just keep this very simple. Paul Mescal, he plays Shakespeare in a movie about Shakespeare, a movie that I think is going to be well-liked and well-nominated, the movie that was appreciated out of every festival it premiered at, even winning TIFF People's Choice Awards, which we know has a very strong track record of getting those winners getting nominated for Best Picture. So it's all but guaranteed that this movie is getting nominated for Best Picture. Therefore, we know that the Academy likes this movie. Therefore, we can elaborate that they should also like Paul Mescal and his portrayal within the film. Paul Mescal is also a past nominee, so well-liked within the Academy. We already have that established. And then also, screen time is an important factor. I didn't mention that already, but it is a factor where if you're in a lot of the movie, people associate you with the movie. And the fact that we were potentially at one point in the season debating if Paul Mescal's in lead or supporting actor, without spoiling the movie, I think just indicates to you already that he is a big part of the movie. Like I said, being the Shakespeare in a movie about Shakespeare should be kind of a signal that he is an important part in the movie. And like I said, not the main emotional center of the movie, but still an important character within a well-liked movie. I think he'll kind of cruise to a nomination, but never really threaten to win. Then my fourth prediction, I'm going to go with Benicio del Toro for One Battle After Another. Another actor who I think will kind of ride to a nomination based on the strength of the film. When I was trying to make my predictions, I wasn't sure if I was ready to go with Benicio del Toro in One Battle After Another. I thought he's truly a supporting character in this movie. He's not a borderline lead, which I think hurts his chances. I thought, Sean Penn's the clear standout. That's the obvious standout. Will people really like Benicio? I really liked him, so I was questioning, is it my own personal bias? But when I was doing kind of the rundown in the stats, I thought, this really does feel like a kind of a prediction that maybe feels a little bit odd and out there to start with right now, but will become increasingly more obvious. And of course, he gets nominated later down the road. So I'm ready to go with Benicio here. And the more I thought about it, the more obvious it became. So first off, you have just the actor himself. Benicio del Toro is a past winner, 2-time nominee, has been steadily working for the past 25 years. I think a well-appreciated and well-liked actor, well-respected. We even hear about someone like DiCaprio talk about Benicio and wanting to work with him for a long time, or directors like Wes Anderson writing parts for Benicio del Toro, or Steven Soderbergh working with him. Like, there's a lot of, I think, great directors and actors who really respect him and what he does. And we know that the Academy respects him in the sense of he's already a past winner. So you already have that kind of basis, an actor that is well-liked. That also really helps. Oh, and then he's also in a movie that's potentially the best well-liked movie of the year. Oh, great. And then you think about the role itself, a funny, memorable character who is easy to root for within the movie. Oh, so there's an even more of a stronger emotional connection where if you really like One Battle After Another and you have it in a bunch of categories and it's your favorite movie of the year, you have to kind of like Benicio del Toro. He's got so many great funny lines. And just ask someone like a Brad Pitt, who won an acting Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for supporting Leonardo DiCaprio's character in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. What's Benicio del Toro doing? He's literally supporting our main character, Leonardo DiCaprio, in One Battle After Another. So there is a little bit of a lineage of actors supporting DiCaprio in movies, getting nominated, getting wins in the case of Brad Pitt. I think Benicio is in some of the best parts of the movie. He has some really kind of emotionally fun nominations and lines. And sometimes we do see this, whether it be someone like I would say like a Sam Rockwell in Vice would be maybe a classic one. I would even say someone like Woody Harrelson in Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. They're not the clear, for sure, number one best supporting actor from their movie necessarily. but they are the one that's kind of the most fun. That's easy to kind of root for, or it makes you feel good to nominate. And I think the kind of lovable nature of Benicio's character, the humanity that he brings to the film, the appreciation of not only his film, but himself as an actor. You got so many things going for it that it really does end up positioning Benicio as a potential contender. And then the final thing that we haven't mentioned yet is the fact that the Academy in the past 8 years have really appreciated and really liked to nominate two actors from the same movie in the same category. The benefit of doing the Oscars and breaking them down and predicting them for over 10 years is that we've been around, and I've been around making these predictions, and I remember certain things. And I remember in 2017 when it was like, oh, Sam Rockwell and Woody Harrelson are going to get nominated for 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. That was an odd thing, because before that, you had to go all the way back in the Best Supporting Actor category to 1991 for Bugsy, in which 2 actors from the same movie were nominated in the same category. Then all of a sudden, we went on this huge run where, not including last year, there was, I think, 8 years in a row where every single year we had, I guess it was 7 years in a row. Every single year we had either of the supporting acting categories, actress or actor, double nominations. So in supporting actress, it would be, Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz from The Favorite. But in the supporting actor category, let's just talk about that. We had 4 years in a row where that happened, where 2019, Al Pacino and Joe Pesci for The Irishman. 2020 was Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield for Judas and the Black Messiah. 21 was Jesse Plemons and Cody Smith-McPhee for Power of the Dog. And then 2022, we had the Banshees of Inisherin, Brendan Gleeson and Barry Keoghan. So it is more of a trend that we've been noticing. Now, it didn't happen last year, but if you look at it from the past 8 or 9 years, it happened 8 out of the last 9 years in either of the supporting acting categories. So in a way, the way I look at it is, it's something that we don't need to force. Like last year, there wasn't a clear opportunity, so we didn't force it. It didn't happen. We didn't predict it. But when there is maybe an obvious scenario like this, I think there's potentially an obvious scenario in the Best Supporting Actress category. We'll talk about that next week. But there is, I think, a clear trend in the past few years where the Academy is telling us we prefer that. Or when we like a movie, we like to nominate in a bunch of categories. Because if you look at those 4 years in a row for the Best Supporting Actor category, let's just do it 2019 to 2020, the ones I just listed out, all 4 of those movies were nominated for Best Picture. And as a matter of fact, 3 out of those 4 movies were not only nominated for Best Picture, but were also nominated for Best Director. So what does that tell us? It tells us that when they nominate, 2 supporting actors in the same category from the same movie, it's not from a movie they kind of like or a movie that's not nominated for Best Picture. It's a movie that they love enough to nominate for Best Picture and nominate for Best Director. Well, one battle after another, what is that? A movie that we think is potentially going to win Best Director or win Best Picture, a super well-liked movie. It's the classic kind of persona, the classic kind of type of a movie to get multiple nominations from the same category here. And the Academy, despite not doing it last year, did it 8 years in a row before that, have continually demonstrated the fact that they like to do this. When they really like a movie, they will nominate multiple performers from it in the same category. They're not afraid to do that. And I think this is just a perfect kind of a combination of the potential Best Picture frontrunner with a couple of actors with really unique, distinctive performances, stand-up performances from both past winners, so we know they're well-liked. I think the momentum of one battle after another will really kind of roll, particularly in the nominations season. And I think Benicio will, follow the success of the film and get a nomination. Then my final prediction, I went with Jacob Elordi in Frankenstein. And this was a performance that I really appreciated out of TIFF. And I wasn't sure if other people would, or if he was even a potential possibility in this category. And the way the season has started to shape out over the past month, I think it's becoming more and more clear that he is a real contender. I don't think everyone's really willing to say that just yet. And I may not even be willing to say that just yet. I haven't seen a movie like Jay Kelly and potentially Adam Sandler, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Maybe he's really great in the movie, and I'll move him in here. But I want to pick a movie that I had seen because it just makes your predictions a little bit more easily assured. Instead of relying on people who said Jay Kelly, maybe Sandler could get a nomination, I want to predict a movie that I have seen and a movie that I do feel a little bit more confident in. And the more I kind of thought about it and the more confident I became, really. Now, like I said, there's the caveat of not having seen Jay Kelly, but even regardless, I do think that Elordi is a strong contender, at least for the 5th or 6th spot. And I think a lot of people are not maybe giving him enough credit for it, because at least based on my criteria, he fits a lot of the boxes. So number one, you have Frankenstein the movie itself. This is a movie that has actually gained steam in recent weeks, where the initial reviews out of Venice were pretty mixed, but was a well-liked movie at TIFF, came second place as a runner-up, and the reviews ever since then have been pretty good. Some of the other Venice or Telluride movies have maybe decreased a little bit in their appreciation. Movies like The Smashing Machine were praised out of Venice, but then, public didn't really like them. Same thing with Springsteen. Well liked out of Telluride, seems to be falling off a little bit more. So it's always helpful to, once the releases come out and the more broader public sees it, to understand its position. And Frankenstein is a movie that I think has been increasing in people's estimation. So why do I bring that up? I bring that up because I think the more and more days pass, the more likely it is to get nominated for Best Picture, which means that the Academy likes the movie. And if the Academy likes the movie, I think there's a strong chance that they connect with Frankenstein and his character. Without spoiling anything, this is a Guillermo del Toro movie, so naturally he feels intense sympathy to his monster characters in the movies, like he does with every other of his films. So there's an intense emotional connection and sympathy I think Del Toro brings to the Frankenstein character, played by Elordi. So if you feel sympathetic towards the movie and emotionally moved by the movie, I think you'll connect to Elordi's character in particular, not necessarily his performance, but his character, which always helps when you think about the movie and you feel about the movie, you feel towards Elordi. And even still, coming out of Venice, I think the reviews that were mixed still praised Elordi and his performance. So number one, just the fact that you have Frankenstein as a potential Best Picture contender will help Elordi and his chances. Oftentimes we see the acting categories also have Best Picture nominees. Very simple, like we've talked about all episode. If they like the movie, they like a lot of the performances in the movie as well. That's number one. Number two, I think that this is a borderline co-lead performance, and we talked about this earlier, how important screen time is. He is Frankenstein, or Frankenstein's monster in the movie Frankenstein. Without spoiling anything, again, in the second half, he becomes much more of a prominent character. So this is not the story of Oscar Isaac necessarily, as it is the story of Oscar Isaac and Jacob Elordi as Frankenstein's monster. And I think what a lot of people are maybe criticizing the movie for isn't entirely accurate in regards to his performance and his chances. So that brings me to number three. So number one, Frankenstein, really well-liked movie. Number two, he's a borderline co-lead of the movie. So he's in a lot of the movie. When you think about the movie, you think about him. And then number three, it's an involved performance. A lot of people are saying, oh, he's not going to get nominated. You don't recognize him. He's under all this prosthetic, which, yes, it is true. But in past Guillermo del Toro movies, let's take an example of The Shape of Water, the amphibian creature played by Doug Jones. I don't remember that movie entirely correctly, but I don't believe his character even has a name. He's a fish. He's the amphibian creature, and he also doesn't speak within the movie. Now, that's the power of that movie, the kind of wordlessness emotions, but he doesn't speak. So therefore, Doug Jones has no possibility of getting a nomination because he doesn't speak. You can't see his face. He's this really amphibian type creature, and he doesn't even really have a name. Versus Frankenstein is a monster in the film, becomes more and more human over the story, starts to speak and develop language, and has some more human-like abilities that you can therefore associate to a performer like Jacob Elordi that is able to emote throughout those prosthetics. And I actually think that will be a positive for his performance in the sense that actors will appreciate the fact that he had to sit 11 hours, 6 hours in the makeup chair to do his performance, that he had to kind of be like many of the basic acting exercises where you have to pretend to be a baby and then learn to walk. I mean, this is the same Academy that appreciated someone like Emma Stone in Poor Things, who in herself is a type of Frankenstein-esque narrative arc. And Jacob Elordi does a lot of those things of learning how to kind of be in his own body, which is difficult for an actor who is a man who knows how to walk, has to pretend to not know how to walk and things like that. And then his eventual kind of emotional arc and his journey, his ability to, I think, be very scary while also being very vulnerable. It is a quite good performance that I think a lot of people have appreciated. So people may not think about him because of the prosthetics, but in a way, I don't think that this is a Shape of Water type of a situation. I do think that this is more of a obviously well-performed type of performance that people will be able to see past the prosthetics. So there's plenty of reasons: screen time, co-lead, emotional center, in a well-liked movie. Even an actor himself who's been in a couple of interesting movies. He's not like this total nobody. People have probably seen him in Priscilla or, Saltburn or O Canada. Like, he has been building himself a little bit of a reputation the past couple of years. So why not, essentially, Frankenstein? I think that it's got a strong possibility of the technical categories, decent possibility at a Best Picture nomination. And with Elordi being the kind of standout performer of the movie, I think he's got a real possibility for a nomination. And like I said, when I was doing this, I wasn't 100% sure, but he really does got a lot of kind of things going for him. Pretty much every category that you can check, he checks. The question ultimately is the strength of the movie. Are you more of a believer in J. Kelly or in Frankenstein as his Best Picture prospects? I think maybe that will be the conversation and the ultimate determining factor. But like I said, I have to see J. Kelly before I make that decision myself. Right now, I have seen Frankenstein. I thought Elordi was fantastic in it, so I have him in my final slot. Then just talking about some of those possible contenders I alluded to. First off being Adam Sandler for J. Kelly. Who the reviews have said, he's very good. Now, the reviews also said Jeremy Strong from the Springsteen movie was very good. Then after seeing that movie, I think he is good in the movie, but it's not a standout type of performance. I'm worried about that for Adam Sandler. He doesn't necessarily do any transformative performances in this movie. He's not the kind of the person that the movie is about. At one point, I think early on in the season, we thought maybe Sandler would win in this category. And then ever since people saw J. Kelly, it was pretty much like, oh, he's good in the movie, but he's not going to win. It's not that type of performance, which leads me to believe that maybe he's going to be riding on the success of it being an Oscar movie, which it could. Maybe gets in for picture and Clooney and Sandler and screenplay and goes there. I'm not ready to go into that right now just yet. I'm unsure that Netflix is going to put its, all of its weight behind one of these movies. I think it's going to be a little bit in Frankenstein, a little bit in J. Kelly, and then see where the cards lie at the end of the day. And ultimately, I have a concern that the Academy isn't in the same place that the public is, where the public loves Adam Sandler and sees him as a great actor. But does the Academy see that? The same Academy that didn't reward Adam Sandler for Uncut Gems or Adam Sandler in Hustle? He got a SAG nomination, but the Academy didn't even consider him for that performance. Or the same Academy that didn't nominate Jennifer Lopez in Hustlers, or the same Academy that didn't nominate Margot Robbie in Barbie or Tom Cruise in Top Gun Maverick. They don't really love movie stars. And that's what Adam Sandler is. He is a kind of mainstream movie star. Will they kind of reward this performance in a movie that maybe they don't absolutely love? It's tough for me to say that this will be the performance over every other Adam Sandler movie. All the other ones didn't, but this one will. This one will break through. My question ultimately is it so obvious, is it so undeniable of a great performance that he has to get nominated for this movie? To break essentially a stigma that I think the Academy has against movie stars, in particular, I think traditionally comedic actors like Adam Sandler. So I do have some concerns there's going to be some bias against the Sandman, unfortunately. And then my other possible contender, I went with Delroy Lindo in Sinners. You may have predicted based on my past couple of videos here that I'm not super bullish on Sinners' acting chances. I think it's a movie that's going to get nominated for Best Picture, potentially even Best Director, but be more of a Dune, more of a Top Gun Maverick, where it gets a lot of technical love and maybe less of the above-the-line support. Now, I may be wrong about that, absolutely. It may be a movie that the critics at the end of the year really support and push for some of the acting consideration as well. But I think about the movie, I think of it being kind of a big ensemble piece with some people really liking, Delroy Lindo, but other people liking Haley Steinfeld, but other people liking Jack O'Connell. And is there a clear, best performance of the movie? Not necessarily. I don't think of it like One Bell After Another, which has been the best reviewed movie of the year, and I think is a potential Best Picture winner. I don't think Sinners is of that kind of status at this time. And then I also question Delroy Lindo himself in the sense that he's never been nominated for an Oscar, and he was in contention for Da 5 Bloods. I remember predicting back in 2020, my first Best Actor video, I thought Delroy Lindo was going to get nominated, and then he didn't, and then he didn't show up at SAG, and then I was like, oh, he didn't get nominated at all for the Oscars. I mean, some people were thinking Delroy Lindo could win for Da 5 Bloods for Best Actor. He didn't even get nominated. So I have some concerns as well as, does the Academy like Delroy Lindo? We know they like Benicio del Toro, right? Do they like Delroy? That's ultimately my question there. So I think, maybe the Golden Globes really like it, or SAG really likes this movie and gets a lot of appreciation, and he starts to pick up some of those precursors. But right now, Lindo, I think, is more of a possible contender, in part just because of how I'm seeing Sinners and its place within the Oscars. If it starts to prove me wrong and starts to get a bunch of acting love, then I may start to put Delroy Lindo in there in the same way I'm putting in someone like a Benicio del Toro in there for One Battle After Another, kind of riding the success of the movie. But I had a few of those of Paul Mescal, Hamnet, riding the success of the movie. Same thing with Benicio. Did I want to add a third one? Necessarily. That was kind of my thought process. So totally a possibility, but right now I'm not predicting Sinners to get a lot of acting support, so I had him on the outside. But that's about it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you comment below. Let me know your thoughts on the Best Supporting Actor category. Stay tuned to next week where we're going to be talking about the Best Supporting Actress category. But that's about it. Until next time, stay tuned.